Suspense. This is the Man in Black, here again to introduce Columbia's program, Suspense. Tonight, in one of her rare radio appearances, we bring you a star who has occupied a unique place in the affections of moviegoers ever since the screen first became of age, Miss Lillian Gish. Appearing with Miss Gish are two distinguished players, Mr. Ray Collins of the Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer fold, whose current release is Thousands Cheer, and Mr. Bramwell Fletcher, who has ornamented many a stage and film success. There are only three players in Marry for Murder, which is tonight's tale of suspense. Only three characters in this story, whose beginning and end are shrouded in a dense down-east fog. A story of slow terror and swift death, planned by a brilliant murderer. And so with the performances of Lillian Gish as Letty Hawthorne, a frightened, neurotic creature who seemed destined to be a perfect victim, of Bramwell Fletcher as Mark Taylor, so handsome and attentive, and of Ray Collins as the lawyer, Philip Alden, who relates these events to us, we again hope to keep you in suspense.
I used to love the sound of foghorns on the bay, especially at night when I sat before the fire. Let their lonely wail weave a contrast between my snug comfort and the gray immensity outside. But I've lost my taste for them now. Lost it on the night I heard them moan a dirge of death. It's hard enough to lose a friend. But to lose one as I lost Letty Hawthorne is the kind of blow you'll never quite forget. I remember the first time I met her. It fogged up all of a sudden, as it does here on the Cape. But Ann Wentworth held her Sunday night supper as usual. Letty was the only stranger there, a newcomer to the Cape. I looked at her and thought she'd be an attractive woman if she only didn't flutter so much. She was a trim, pretty woman of about my own age, which is 40.
You're Philip Alden, the lawyer, aren't you? Oh, what a pleasure to meet so many nice people. There go those foghorns again.
Yes,
Does one really get used to them in time?
Well, I
love the Cape, but I can hardly bear that sound. So depressing, isn't it? So morbid.
Well, to your first question, yes, I'm Alden, an attorney. As for the foghorns, well, if you stay with us for a few years, you won't be able to live without them, Mrs. Hawthorne. It is Mrs. Hawthorne, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Anne never gets around to introducing people. It's her only fault.
Oh, I never stand on ceremony. That's my fault if you consider it one. Besides, I knew you at once, you see, and you knew me. Don't you think that's a promising beginning?
I never thought of it that way.
Oh, dearie me. There it goes again. It makes me think of ghosts walking over my grave. How can you bear it?
They do serve a very important purpose, you know.
Oh, I suppose they do, but they give me the shudders.
As a matter of fact, I find them comforting.
Mm-hmm. I made Jane Hart promise to stay with me tonight if the fog doesn't lift. I daren't be alone. You see, I'm still a bit nervous.
Oh?
I've been ill, you know, and the doctor prescribed complete rest and quiet.
I see.
That's why I came up here.
Well, you'll find what you're looking for here, I'm sure.
Oh, do you think so? I do hope I will. My nerves are simply shattered. Mr. Hawthorne's death, you see. Such a tragedy.
I'm terribly sorry.
You see, it happened so suddenly. I can't quite believe
Can
that.
I get you some of Anne's cider cup? That's one of our Sunday night features.
Oh, thank you. That would be so nice. It's such a comfort to have a man take care of one again. You make me feel so protected. I know we're going to be great friends, aren't we?
I can tell you I worried a bit for a while after that first party. Letty Hawthorne was a charming woman, a bit fluttery, as I said, but still attractive and rather pathetic. I was afraid she was setting her cap for me. You see, I'm a crusty old bachelor, but even my friends were beginning to wonder. So it was with mingled relief and regret that I learned one day that Letty Hawthorne had transferred her attentions to another newcomer to the Cape, Mark Taylor. He was 8 or 10 years younger than she, a handsome fellow, but somewhat dissolute looking. I didn't like him. I may as well admit that from the start. But short of marrying her myself, there wasn't much I could do. Anyway, they seemed happy enough at first. One day after the wedding, Letty called me on a matter of business. I went down there after sundown. The three of us sat out on the beach in front of her cottage.
I'm so glad you were able to come, Philip. You see, Mark and I were counting on you.
Always glad to oblige you, Letty.
As a matter of fact, Alden, we want you to attend to a legal matter for us.
Yes?
Yes, Philip. Mark wants to make a will. I told him I don't like wills. There's something so unhealthy about them. But Mark simply insists upon it.
Very sensible, I'm sure.
Oh, you men. You're all alike.
It needn't be a very elaborate affair, Alden. Just a simple document stating that I leave all my property to Letty.
Well, if he does that, Philip, I want you to make out a will for me, too. Leaving everything I have to Mark.
But, Letty, there's
No,
no need...
I insist.
Oh, well, Alden here is going to think I married you for your money.
Money? Oh, why, I really don't know anything at all about my affairs. Really, I don't. Frank, Mr. Hawthorne always used to say, Letty, I really think you know less about business than a child. I left the management of his estate entirely to his secretary, you know.
Well, just some simple document that makes my intention clear. You know the form, Alden. And, of course, if Letty insists...
But I do. We'll have twin wills. It doesn't sound so frightening that way.
The way Letty talks about wills, you can tell she has a secret vice, can't you?
A secret vice?
My wife's a murder mystery fan, Alden. I didn't find out until it was too late.
Oh, Mark, you silly.
When you say that, Taylor, smile. I'm a detective fan myself. It's a busman's holiday, of course, but I always read the latest whodunits. If my father hadn't insisted that I follow in his footsteps, I'd have been a detective instead of a lawyer.
Really? How interesting. Tell us, Philip, do you ever get any cases like the ones we read about?
Well, if you want my opinion, the chief difference between fact and fiction is that the author of a novel wants you to see the pattern and the author of a murder tries to hide it.
Oh.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Well, take your case, for example. You and Letty are making out your wills. I heard her say that she wanted to leave her money to you. But how do I know the idea just sprang into her head of its own accord? How do I know that you didn't plant it there?
Plant it? What do you mean? Why, what possible reason could I have?
Well, as things stand now, there's no reason for me to ask if you planted the idea in her head. But if Letty were found dead...
Dead? Oh, Philip, how dreadful. How can you even think such thoughts? Mark, darling, how terrible for you. Philip, you're to apologize this minute.
No, Letty. Philip was just trying to explain.
Well, I won't have him talking about such horrible things.
Of course, I didn't mean you to. I was just using you as an example.
Well, I didn't mean to be rude, Philip, but, well, you know my nerves, and it's getting dark. Oh, the bay is beautiful at night, of course, but I've always been afraid of the water.
That's why I've had such a time persuading her to come out for a sail. The Artemis has been tied up all summer, waiting.
It's just silly, I know, and I will go with you, Mark. But let's wait for a calm day.
You know, Letty's idea of a sail is to sit becalmed half a mile offshore. My wife has perfect confidence in me, you see.
Oh, Mark, it isn't that. You're making fun of me, aren't you? Of course, I trust you completely, but, well, I'm not very athletic.
You're missing one of the treats of the Cape if you don't sail.
But I shall. Of course I shall, and soon. And what's more, I'm going to get Mark to teach me to handle the Artemis.
Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing your sails on the bay, then.
Oh, Mark, a storm.
I better be getting home before it breaks.
Are you sure you'll be all right? Oh, I'm simply terrified of thunder. Wouldn't you rather stop with us?
Oh, I can make it to town.
Stop by tomorrow, won't you, Alden? Or as soon as you have those papers.
Right.
Now, you won't be nervous after our talk of wills and murders. Oh, but of course you won't. I'm such a coward myself that I can never understand how other people can be so brave.
You know, Philip, Letty's helplessness is one of her chief charms. Sometimes I suspect she exaggerates it just to make me feel important.
Oh, Mark, you mustn't. Giving all my secrets away.
Well, don't worry about me or the wills, Letty. Someday you'll frighten yourself to death.